a young perspective on hot-button issues around the world. This is The Hub.
Hello and welcome to The Hub. I'm Wang Guan in Beijing. The global race in artificial intelligence is no longer only about who builds the most powerful models. Increasingly, it is about how to shape the rules to govern this transformative technology. On August the 2nd, the European Union's landmark AI Act fully enters into force. Just days earlier, world leaders, policymakers, and industry pioneers gathered in Shanghai, China for the 2026 World Artificial Intelligence Conference Awake, where President Xi Jinping called for a people-centered approach to ensure AI is developed for the benefit of humanity. Meanwhile, the United States is moving ahead with its own AI action plan to strengthen technological leadership. As the European Union focuses on regulation, the U.S. emphasizes innovation, and China advocates openness and international cooperation. Is AI governance becoming the next frontier of strategic competition? Or can the world's major powers still find common ground to shape an inclusive and secure AI future? To unpack all these questions, we're joined in Beijing by Thorsten Jelinek, Research Fellow at the Center for Digital Governance of Hertie School. Also in Beijing, we have Brian Tse, founder and CEO of Concordia AI. And last but not least, we have Fan Haoqiang, co-founder of Dexmo, an embodied AI company. So, Thorsten, let me go to you first. Now, let's begin with this latest development regarding some shocking breaches revealed by some of the world's leading AI companies. Last Friday, Anthropic revealed that its Claude models escaped the testing environment. A week earlier, OpenAI said its own model had breached one of the company's open source AI platforms. Tens of thousands of data and models have been compromised. How alarming are these breaches? Do we see a trend here?
I think we see a shift in cybersecurity challenges. The time before these very capable models, now cybersecurity in the age of those frontier models, where agents or where the system is not just responding to our chat, but where agents are capable to carrying out multiple steps. So this kind of threat landscape then for individuals and then for organizations is changing tremendously. You could almost summarize that the more agents we see out there, the more agents and tokens organizations need to protect their systems. And to these incidences, I think there's also a little bit of falsehood involved here, making us believe that those agents, those AI agents, which are capable to carrying out multiple steps on their own, have this kind of almost life of their own and did it because they wanted to do it. So I think what happened here is that those systems, those agents were instructed by humans to explore and to sort out problems or issues and to be tested against those benchmarks. And then those models are very capable. And if you have used yourself those agents, then you will find out actually when they encounter a problem, what they like to do is to start programming to sort out this problem. So it's actually a good behavior because they have been developed to program in first instance and to carry out workflows, etc. And if they have an obstacle, to sort it out. But when we instruct them to do that, and we cannot anticipate actually what they are going to do, and this is what happened. And it also reminds of the case of the blackmailing. You might remember that case where in Anthropic and where an agent became, participated in a fictitious organization and could read emails, send emails, and start blackmailing. But also here, I think the agent was instructed many times by humans to do that. So, and it tried to resist actually. So we're still not there that agents just go, by themselves rogue and do whatever they want to do.
I mean, policymakers are scrambling for solutions to all these challenges. Brian, as AI systems become increasingly intelligent, how should humans manage this new relationship? I mean, what should be the top priorities when thinking about ensuring that AI remains safe, reliable, and really aligned with human interests?
What some of the recent incidents show is that the autonomous ability of AI has really crossed a critical threshold. Now we see AI models are no longer just generating text. They're actively reasoning, planning, and also executing actions in the internet and real-world environments. So At Concordia, we have this Frontier AI risk monitoring platform, which has documented a concerning trend that Frontier AI models already displayed substantial autonomous cyber penetration and hacking capabilities. And so I think to manage this evolving relationship, where we're no longer just dealing with AI chatbots, but digital assistants and AI agents, our priority has to shift from static pre-deployment testing to a more dynamic real-time monitoring and containment efforts. I think China is taking a leading role here, recently establishing the first mandatory standards around the deployment of AI agents in the world. And of course, autonomous failures do not stop at national borders. Global technical alignment of the rules and governance would be critical. So, a few months ago at the International Scientific Exchange of AI Safety in Singapore, more than 100 global experts identified 10 agentic AI risk management principles, like minimum privilege principle or traceable agent identity. And I think that provide policymakers and society with a concrete toolkits that are needed to keep autonomous agents bounded, traceable, and ultimately safe.
I mean, the AI ecosystem as well as the policy environment is getting increasingly complex. Now, Hao Qiang, against this backdrop, what are the biggest challenges facing AI companies today? I mean, what practical solutions or policy changes would be required to make it more sustainable, for the benefit of humanity, as our president has said?
Yeah, so the topic of AI safety must be taken serious now. So nowadays, the agents can do cyber attacks which do real harm to our computer systems. And however, the safety issue comes from the very beginning of programming. So if you do, say, industrial control programs or autonomous driving software, if your program goes wrong, then it literally takes people's lives. So this will be the same for AI as it becomes more powerful. Beforehand, it just deletes the files on your systems, but when it gets the internet access, it can harm other people. And if someday the embodied AI becomes real, then it may even control robots to do other physical things. So for companies, the simple rule is that they should reduce the number of bugs in their models. So algorithms, bugs always harms people, not AI harms the people.
It is about the people. Now, Thorsten, the EU's AI Act now fully comes into force while the United States continues to prioritize innovation and the proprietary concerns, while China is calling for stronger and more equitable global AI governance. How do you interpret all these different approaches?
I think they have something in common, but the reaction is different. And in common is we have to put it in historical terms that we, in the past, from the 2000s onward, we had this golden straitjacket of global capital, unregulated markets, and governments actually were not capable to make policy choices for their people because they were had the choice of no choice than to comply to those global markets. And we could shift from this golden straitjacket into a golden straitjacket, maybe it's not that golden for all, of intelligence, so of hyperglobalization, that governments, again, have no sovereignty to act in the best interest of their people, right? Because you have just a few big organizations, frontier labs, which are offering those systems to you, and you cannot make those choices, or you don't have the data, you don't have the computer, etc. So I think that is what most countries actually have in common. But the reaction, if you compare the three blocks you mentioned, is different. So the EU is usually very risk averse in terms of making no mistake. So we regulate things which are not yet there. We don't have even the capability, the technological. So 80% is imported of this technology. The US is always seen as a market foundationalist, innovative-driven approach. Here, of course, is AGI first. They want to reach it, and I think seems very critical as a new paradigm for productivity. But interestingly, in the United States, most people, or many people, compared to many other countries, are very suspicious of that technology, right? So that's a very sharp contradiction. And in China, we have, I think, this common, since opening up approach with the river crossing, one stone after the other, this kind of, okay, I'll let it go, I experiment the technology, use it, and then we learn, and then we regulate, right? Of course, here also is an issue. What I can do today, I'm not allowed to do tomorrow. So there is also a little bit regulatory uncertainty. But you have this opportunity, if you can, use that technology. And I think from a global side, from a global governance perspective, I mean, first we have to congratulate on this new organization and on the 29 countries joining it. And I think we had already a policy brief in 2021 on the G20 level asking for a coordinating committee on the global governance of AI, and it did not materialize. So I think it is really necessary to collaborate on those issues together.
It is necessary to cooperate. Now, Brian, if you talk about user experience when it comes to uses and downloads, Chinese AI large language models are topping the leaderboard so far. What's behind the popularity so far of the Chinese AI large language models?
I think one of the reasons why Chinese open weight models are getting so popular is that they are usually performing at maybe 90% or 95% of the frontier performance, as we have seen with Kimi K3 and GRM 5.2. But also because they are open weight, it allows developers and businesses and even governments to have sovereign control over their models and data. Recently, when Hugging Face was attacked by the OpenAI agent for their production server, they tried to use proprietary models to find out what happened. But because the guardrails were so strong, they were not able to use it. And so Hugging Face had to rely on an open model from China, GRM 5.2, to the kind of investigation of the cyber incident. In addition, I think the cost is much lower. If you look at the token usage of DeepSeek V4, we have seen, the price for producing a website is, several dozens times lower as compared to the latest model from Anthropic. So I think this combination of performance, sovereign control, and also cost making this quite a popular usage.
All right, gentlemen, thank you so much for your insights. We will take a short break. After the break, we'll be back taking a look at the latest Ceuta migration emergency in Spain. Stay tuned.
A tale of love, peace, and friendship.
Dear Grandpatry, I wish that we could stay friends forever. Me, Dashan, and Haiyan.
Friends forever!
Friends forever.
Based on real events, Echoes of Kuliang, a radio drama series, relates the warm and vibrant life stories of the Kuliang friends set in the historical tapestry of the 20th century.
Match!
We'll gather the balls for you! Let's see if we can catch some big fish and ask my mom to make some fishbowl soup tonight.
Do you guys know what I can do?
Bình bình an an,平安平安 symbolizing being safe.
床前明月光，疑是地上霜。举头望明月，on my bed 思故乡。
With spellbinding performances and immersive sound effects, CGTN Radio presents you Echoes of Kuliang, available on radio.cgtn.com and all major podcast platforms.
Such a beautiful story.
Follow Echoes of Kuliang as it unfolds across generations, bridging continents and cultures in a celebration of love, friendship, and the enduring spirit of home.
Hometown.
How far we apart, Kuliang, where we call it home.
Welcome back. Over the past week, the world's attention has been drawn to Spain, a small Spanish enclave on Africa's northern coast bordering Morocco named Ceuta. In just a few days, tens of thousands of undocumented migrants crossed into the territory, making it one of Europe's most significant migration emergencies in recent years. Around 90 people are reportedly have died during the crossings, while the Spanish government says most migrants have returned to Morocco. And the immediate situation is now under control. The political fallout continues to reverberate across Europe and beyond. To discuss all these developments, we're joined in Beijing by Joseph Olivier Mandou, Deputy Director of the International Exchange Department of the China-Africa Business Council, and Ms. Song Xin, founder of Senoville Consulting and former policy advisor at the European Parliament. Now, Ms. Song, let me go to you first. Tens of thousands of migrants going from northern Africa, crossing the Mediterranean into the southern border of Spain. What explains this, one of the largest migrant crises in recent memory?
Well, there are quite a lot of factors, and one of them is, the European Union has been externalizing its border control to the neighboring country, such as Morocco, Algeria, and Tunisia, and also including the eastern side, such as Ukraine. So the tradition was the European Union would grant some kind of fund and also some method to help this country to control the migrant to cross through their territory in order to prevent them from getting into the EU in large amount. But recently, since the EU's economy has been declining, I would say, and the fund has shrunk largely. So under this background, some countries might play around by exaggerating certain crises in order to highlight their position or their importance in the border control system, in order to have a bigger, I would say, bargaining chip in the future. So I think that is one of the key factor. And another thing is Ceuta is a very controversial territory between Spain and Morocco, and both countries claim that they have the sovereignty over the territory. So I think Morocco has been thinking also on this point in order to put pressure not only on Spanish government and also on the EU side.
Right, Olivier, why do you think Ceuta has become this new frontier of this latest round of migrant crises? What political, economic, and security factors do you think are at play here?
Well, I think geographically, Ceuta is one of Spain's two North African sovereign enclaves, as my colleague just mentioned, and also the European Union's only direct land bound with Africa, and with which actually positions it uniquely accessible entry point to EU territory. But I want to also mention that unlike long distance trans-Mediterranean Sea crossing to Italy, but also to Greece and also Malta, migrants can reach Ceuta via short coastal swims or border fences crossing, cutting travel costs and also risking long open ocean facilities. And these core geographic advantage makes it actually a magnet for irregular migrants from Morocco and from wider West Africa. So I think I agree with my colleague there, but the immediate sudden surge has a clear legal trigger. Confirmed, we already know by the Spain Supreme Court early July this year, which states that the court actually ruled police could not carry out immediate hot returns on migrants intercepted at the sea near Ceuta. And this policy actually previously applied to people climbing land border fences. And human smuggling, also these kind of networks rapidly distorted and amplified this narrow legal judgment across social media and spreading false claims that anyone reaching Ceuta by water would qualify to stay in Europe permanently. So this explains why we had so many people there. So I think I will end there. The deliberate online misinformation created a rush window for thousands of young American citizens facing a high domestic unemployment at large wage disparities between Morocco and EU member states. And beneath that immediate trigger is the long-term structural push factors in terms of widespread limited formal unemployment, but also uneven regional economic development across northern Morocco and well-established transnational smuggling cartels that profit heavily by charging misbrand tips fees for crossing guidances. So it is all of these reasons that actually led to what we're seeing now.
Right, and Ms. Songxin, let me ask you this. How do you think this latest episode will impact Spain's migrant policy? Because Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez explicitly says that he wants to regularize some 500,000 immigrants coming to Spain and making them, having a pathway to Spanish residency or citizenship. How do you think this, Ceuta incident will change all this?
I think Spain cannot act alone. They need to coordinate inside the European government. The whole framework in order to find a right solution. Because right now, all these irregular migrants are not just staying in Spain, and they are going to Italy, to in the northern countries, and so there's a urgent need for the European Union member states to find a quick solution to that. But I think the key here is this tiny, I would say let's say like a mistake or this misjudgment of certain judiciary file led actually to a huge crisis. And the whole event reflects like how fragile actually the whole migration control system is within the European Union under the certain economic background. And if the EU really wants to tackle with this urgent challenge, I think there must be some fundamental change in their resolution, in their decision-making procedure, because there's no quick answer, I would say, no matter from the Spanish government or at the EU level.
Because many people are asking, could the European Union still garner a collective response to migrant management? Olivier, let me ask you about this, because different countries had different governments in office who have different attitudes towards migrants. Italy, for example, temporarily reinstated Schengen border checks with Spain, something that was unheard of, right? We have this whole Schengen area as if it's one territorial whole, while France and Germany have tightened their own border measures, while the Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez criticized some EU members for what he calls a selfish, polarizing, and unlawful reaction. Where is all this headed in light of this latest incident?
I do think, as you mentioned, there are some unilateral restrictive action taken by Italy, France, or Germany in response to this Ceuta crisis. But for me, it actually shed light to deep, long-standing structural disunity within the EU, the European Union, on migration, also on border security and burden strategy. And immediately after this migrant surge, Italy, we talked about Italy reinstated temporary Schengen, internal checks for all the travelers. But then at the heart of this division, I think there is an unresolved burden sharing conflict. We have, for example, southern states like Spain, Italy, and Greece, who bear the overwhelming burden of irregular migrants' arrival on Europe's external borders, and also demanding mandatory EU-wide migrants relocation quota or substantial financial compensation for hosting asylum seekers, while northern and eastern members prioritize domestic political pressure. But I think one aspect is overlooked here, which is actually a very important detail. Ceuta actually is legally outside the Schengen-free travel zone, meaning that anyone traveling from the enclave to mainland Spain already required formal passports and visa before the crisis. And even with this existing barrier, EU states rushed to impose punitive unilateral borders restriction rather than active coordinated bloc-wide crisis mechanism. And these reactions patterns proves that the European solidarity on migration remains largely rhetorical in times of acute crisis. And the Ceuta incident has laid bare permanent or unbridgeable ideological and also national interest divides within the EU over how to manage this kind of cross-border migration pressures.
Well, we have 1 minute left. Ms. Songxin, do you think we'll see a more unified approach towards migrant policy debates in the EU, or perhaps a tougher migration model?
Well, I think recently it will lead to a tougher regulation model, of course, because as I mentioned before, I think the fundamental problem is there's not enough fund to invest into this border control system. So right now they have to make sure that the control is stricter in order to prevent the secondary, migration wave within the EU, and which will lead to another problem later. So unified or not, I think it's very difficult to tell right now because each country right now have their own challenges from economic issues to financial and to internal elections. So I think the general trend is that countries are getting right wing, like more right wing on this migration issues, more and more within the EU and also at the EU level. So I think that will not be changed in general.
Certainly more invitation to the right-wing politicians who advocate for tougher policies. Now, Mengdu and Ms. Songxin, thank you both so very much for your insights. And that will do it for this edition of The Hub. Thank you so much for tuning in. Stay tuned and bye for now.